welcome back to another episode of the Fresh Hope for Betty podcast. As always, I'm your host, Oliver Goulet, and I am also joined by my amazing fiance and co-host,
Brisbane soon-to-be Goulet.
We got quite the show, but first, before we dive into it, we just want to say thank you for all the people that have actually reached out and given us topics to actually talk about. That's greatly appreciated because we want to help you guys solve whatever problems or things that you are currently going through, whether that be us sharing our stories, our perspectives. Like, we are ultimately here to provide you with value. And if you guys have a certain topic or question that you guys would like answered, all it takes is for you to literally reach out on Instagram, email the show, or any other way that you could possibly get a hold of either one of us. And we'd be happy to do it. Like, today's episode is from one of the listeners who wanted more information about this topic.
Totally.
So what is that topic going to be today?
So it was a great question. Why are we as a generation in current society experiencing loneliness to new heights and degrees, which I think is a perfect topic to talk about because there's a lot of contributing factors. We both have very strong opinions on why it's going on. So I hope that you guys either agree, disagree, like, comment, whatever it is, to our opinions. But I hope that whatever we do say today, it adds a little bit of value to your life for sure.
Yeah, there's truly an epidemic going on and people feel more disconnected than ever, even though you guys are listening to me talk right now, or you see someone on Instagram. Like, that is not actual connection. And my perspective and my opinion on it is it was all part of their plan, with the people that are basically controlling the world, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but this is all part of their play, because simply if they can keep us glued to our phone screens for 6 to 10 to 12 hours a day, not having actual in-person relationships and truly connecting with people, then that makes us weak. And the saying is, united we stand, divided we fall. And their ultimate goal is control and power. And how do you do that? When you have people not connected with one another, not fully embracing one another, not being in person, building and deepening, developing relationships, because then ultimately you feel like you are lonely and you feel like you are on an island. And I've been through seasons of my life where I've felt extreme loneliness, but we'll dive into more of our stories and how we're able to overcome that later. But ultimately, I do think it is intentional. And when they tell us to do something and they push stuff at us, the best thing to do is do the complete opposite. Romans 12 verse 2 says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, which goes hand in hand with what is happening in today's society. Is they want you to go one way, which means that you truthfully should go the exact opposite way, especially with the news and anything that you see from the big news sources and outlets and things like that. Like, the things that they are telling you is either one, trying to get money from you, or two, trying to actually put some kind of fear inside of you, when the reality is it's not that big of an issue. They're just pushing an agenda so that they can control you more. But that's my side of it. That's based off my personal experiences, my research, the people I follow, the information I'm able to read about, and the actual facts and statistics that I base my opinions on. This isn't just me throwing some random stuff out there. I've done the research to actually know what is actually going on. And it's very hard for many people to actually understand that and see the truth in that. But there's truth in reality, and that's what they want to keep away from you at the end of the day. Because if you don't know, then you really don't know, and you don't know how to make a change or actually do something to effectively help solve that problem.
But isn't it interesting that they sell these social media tools? First and foremost, it has the word social in it. That's a selling point, right? Oh, look, I won't be lonely. This is a social media platform. Social, we're talking, we're communicating. But really, it has made the problem so much worse because, if we're thinking about our ancestors, right? And even ancestors 200 years ago, pretty recent ancestors, they didn't have this interconnectedness where I only knew what was going on in my 20-mile proximity, right? We talked to one another face to face. We found out things through like maybe a newspaper, and you kind of knew about the world, but that would take a long time for information to travel. now I can see what somebody's doing in their bedroom in Australia right now. And that's crazy to think about. We didn't grow up in a world where we were super connected in our community as nearly as much as our ancestors did. But how harmful is that you now have so much information, so many places to think that you're not enough, or you're constantly judging yourself or putting yourself against other people that you see on these social apps. But very interesting that they use all those keywords: Facebook community, social media, all these pages, that they're using those buzzwords, and they're playing off of people who do feel lonely.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's all part of their big game, because the whole point of social media, it is a business. They created it to make money. How do they make money? They have people running ads and stuff, especially through Meta, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok Shop, all these other platforms that you can purchase something off of, and they directly target you, because this thing right here is always listening all day long.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking about, something that I've looked into or been wanting to potentially buy, I can literally say it on my phone or around my phone, and it'll start targeting these ads at me. And the more that they can continuously get you on that, that means the more that the companies are going to pay them, which makes their business more profitable, i.e., the whole point of a business is to provide value and make money. And the way that social media provides value is simply by distracting you from what truthfully matters. And I know every single person listening to this right now can think of a time where you got caught doom scrolling or on social media or behind a screen for a significant amount of time, and you felt extremely drained.
Yeah.
You felt extremely drained, because you're getting so much dopamine by scrolling, because it's like, oh, something new and exciting. You got these 10, 15, 20, 30-second reels that you're just dopamine rushing the whole time. And when you do that, you overload your brain. Your neurochemistry is not supposed to receive dopamine that way. You guys have heard from my past situation how I like to put myself in uncomfortable positions, and whether it be my cold plunge, hard workouts, or doing something positively for my physical health that actually produces dopamine naturally, because we live in a dopamine producing world that's just dopamine everywhere you get, like the bright shiny lights everywhere you go, like screens, all these things. And that is just because our bodies have a craving and a deeper desire to receive dopamine, because dopamine feels great. Dopamine and serotonin, those are the feel good type, the feel good things that are constantly triggered, whether they're from natural or unnatural sources. You got to think back to our ancestral days, like she was talking about, with 20, you only really knew what was happening between your neighbors or people that you were constantly talking to in person back in the day, compared to now, where you have access to people across the globe 24/7, 365. And this also leads to many other problems, such as the instant gratification. We get so impatient, and I am a struggler of this myself. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm an impatient person because I want to hear now. And that's because it was ingrained into us. And that is also another key component to feeling lonely, because, if you see something online, you start working towards it, and it's not happening as fast as you'd like, you start getting impatient. And eventually you could potentially give up on that, because you are impatient and you're not literally taking the time that is required to actually achieve that, because you saw it on social media and this person made a false promise that, just for example, you guys know how I always like to use fitness as a reference, because that's a big part of my life in that space. And I help coach people is, six pack in 30 days or something like that. Like, they sell you on this false belief, and then you end up not being able to achieve it, because the only reason you bought it in the first place is because we are impatient. We want things right now. And your physical body, it takes a while to change. I mean, you didn't put on that extra 20 pounds in 30 days. Hopefully not. But it's also not going to come off in 30 days unless you're truly starving yourself. And, that goes into many other things that truthfully I don't want to go into right now. But the overarching theme of the loneliness aspect is simply because we are impatient, we are disconnected, even though they say we're more connected than ever, but yet we're so disconnected ourselves right now.
Yeah. I mean, even just something, I even struggle with this from time to time as well. When's the last time you went to the store and talked to a stranger? When's the last time you made eye contact with a stranger? I'm guilty of that one. People are walking towards me. I like kind of get cold feet and I like won't say hi or look at them, and I'll just kind of be like, "Oh, look at over there. It's really cool." Because it feels very vulnerable, right? Like, and we don't have good practice on that. We're behind a screen all the time, and we don't have practice anymore of talking to people face to face. So, like, take inventory, maybe practice that this week sometime. Talk to somebody at the store. And honestly, you're not going to be greeted very well with it. The last couple times I've done it, a lot of people do not want to talk to you. That's fine. You can just be a positive little light in their day. But you might find somebody to talk, and it's not even just dumping their problems. It could just be a social moment that you're both experiencing. Like, you're at a thrift store and you're like, what the heck is that? And, it could bring a giggle to somebody and be like, I was thinking the same thing. Like, right? It could just be something like that. And I promise you that small interaction over time, when you kind of do those things more and more and more, you won't feel so lonely because you're creating this weird little community moments, right? But I honestly feel that people are not putting that enough in their day.
Oh, 100%. And I got a great example of that. That is something that I learned from the 75 Hard program and Andy Frisella was, having conversations with strangers at the store. Like, that is part of phase 3 of the Live Hard program, is having a conversation with a stranger every day. So there was times where I was literally going to a store at 11 o'clock at night to go have a conversation with a stranger.
Yeah.
Because it was something I hadn't done for the day. And it's uncomfortable, but the more, just like anything, the more you do it, the less uncomfortable it's going to be. And ultimately, like, that's how you get good at communicating with people. It doesn't matter if you're in, business, entrepreneur, sales, like whatever area you're in, communication is one of the biggest components of life.
Yeah.
If you truly want to have a fully rewarding, fully like a fulfilling lifestyle, you have to be good at communicating. And it takes practice. It's a skill, just like anything. Like, I wasn't born a great communicator. In fact, I was born the fat, shy kid that really didn't want to talk to anyone because I thought people were judging me. Probably were. But guess what? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. And now it's to the point where I literally can have a conversation with anyone. Just for example, I just got back from the Kaizen Brotherhood retreat this weekend. Phenomenal event, by the way. Absolutely impeccable with my guys. It brought so much fulfillment to be in person with all of those guys. But we're working out at Awaken Inside, one of my good friends and brothers in Christ, Eric Hines' gym called Awaken Inside. And me and my other great friend, one of my groomsmen, Brian Kirchner, were walking next door to the coffee shop to get a cold brew. And we're talking crap back and forth a little bit. And he's from Philly, and he doesn't know proper English. He calls a tournament a tournament. And that's just not how you say it, first off, if you think so. Otherwise, you are wrong. But we were having this debate, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to squash this debate. There's 4 dudes right there waiting for the coffee too. I said, hey, guys, will you settle something for me? And I could tell that they weren't probably from the area because they were all different ethnicities, which makes it not an issue by any means, which if you look at someone and think about their ethnicity and start judging them, you're a shitty person. Don't do that. But I asked them, I said, hey, what is it? Is it pronounced tournament or tournament? And everyone agreed with me because I'm right, of course. But in that moment, it led me to having a God moment, because those were 4 dudes who go around the country to colleges and all over the globe. They'd just gotten back from Asia, and they're missionary workers to spread the good word and the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And right there and then, we were just able to have a great conversation. It ended up leading to a prayer session. And now I really want to get to know these guys because they got a great group of things going on, and they're doing the Lord's work. So just that little thing where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to talk to these people and ask them. Random person. No idea who they were, but now a relationship could come out of that. So if you're someone that's still stuck from 2019 to 2021, we all know the exact bullshit that went on for them to disconnect us even more with the social distancing, wear masks, do not do all these things. But their intention was to separate us, which now we're starting to feel those effects still to this day, which is a big contributor of the loneliness we feel on top of the social media aspect. But saying all this to say, it doesn't take much to just go ask someone a question or build a genuine or start a genuine conversation. For me, what I like to do, if I see someone that either has something that I like, or they look good in something that they're wearing, or you look at their water bottle, there's a brand, there's something you can relate to, that's an easy moment for you to go and start a conversation with that.
Yeah.
Like if I see someone wearing the First One logo, like on my shorts, I know that person's values. I know what type of person that is, and I can go have a genuine conversation. It doesn't even have to be First One. It could be Nike. It could be literally any other brand. Oh, they're wearing a Garmin watch. They're into fitness or something like that. Maybe I go start a conversation with them. Or they're shopping and walking down the aisle at the grocery store, and they're in the same area that you are. And if you know a little bit more about what you're looking for, or if they have something that you're like, oh, I've always wanted to try that, ask them.
Yeah.
People love to talk about themselves. Like that is a big component that many people forget, is people love to talk about themselves. How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of my top 5 favorite books of all times, because it truthfully shows how you can actually properly communicate with people, how to build friends, how to build relationships, and how to influence people. And it's not manipulation, it's influencing people if your intentions are truly proper.
Yeah. Well, even just like, I know something we do all the time. We go to a restaurant. Hi, what's your name? We ask that to our server. If they don't say anything, right? If they're just like, hey, can I get you water? Be like, yeah, that water would be great. What's your first name? And then for the rest of the meal, we go like, oh, thanks, Josh. Oh, thanks, Cindy. Whatever his name is, because they're people. They just want to be seen. They are not some, like they are a person, and treat them as such, as you would want to be treated, right? That golden rule. Just listen to people, ask them a question. Oh, hey, like, did you always do serving? Whatever it is, there are so many opportunities to connect now. There are, because people are craving it. Ask people questions, get people talking. Even if it's a 2-second conversation, I'm sure you can pick out a moment in your life too, where somebody asked you or cared to talk to you, Like I can think of a few in my mind when I was at the store and somebody just came up to me and they complimented me, or they came up to me and asked me a question. Some guy at the grocery store recently looked in my cart, chicken, 12 gallons of milk, egg whites, 3 things of eggs. It was a hot mess of a cart. And he looked at me and he goes, how many people do you feed? And I go, oh, it's just my fiance and I. I was like so embarrassed, but at the same time, he was like so confused. Like, and that's all you guys eat? And I'm like, pretty much. Like, I eat peanut butter toast too, but this is pretty much the rest of our day. And he was just flabbergasted. It led to us like giggling. And even if I wanted to continue that on, that could have been a great way for me to segue into like nutrition or fitness or other things, and it didn't call for that moment. But I'm just saying, look at how many doors were opened because he just took a second to go, what? What the heck? Yeah, so I think we're kind of dropping the ball. Like, there is so many missed opportunities to do it.
Another key thing is compliments go a long way. If you are willing to go around and just make it a standard for give someone a compliment today, like due to the law of reciprocity, if you don't know what that means, it means you get what you give in life. God and the universe work in mysterious ways. It's not tit for tat, but it is, if I give to this person, the universe and God are going to work in my favor, and they're going to give back to me. And that's something a lot of people really struggle with, is they feel like, oh, I'm lonely, or I need this, or I'm not feeling love. And it's like, well, look internally. When was the last time you were giving love? When was the last time that you were complimenting people, or that you reached out to someone? Like, it's a two-way street. And I know a lot of people really struggle with this aspect, but in all reality, I'm a very busy guy, but I still make a priority to actually reach out to my people and check in with them, just to build that relationship and keep deepening and developing it. Because ultimately, life is truly about relationships. Same with business and any other thing. It's about the people that you're able to do things with during your time here on earth. And if you don't take the time to actually deepen and develop those relationships, they're not going to be as strong as they potentially could be. And to Brisbane's point with going to and just having conversations with people, you don't know if that person that you compliment could end up being one of your best friends.
Yeah.
Like, all it takes is that one little piece of you initiating something for it actually to come to fruition for what you truthfully do want. If you're praying for more people to be in your life, but yet you're not using your God-given gifts and abilities like your voice or your hands or your feet to go out and try to serve and help and be that shifting change that you truly want to see in the world.
So, with all that being said, what was a time that you were feeling really lonely in your life? What were some action steps that you took? I mean, for our listeners who might be feeling this loneliness, I know we talked about a few action steps you can already do, but I want to hear like a personal story from you that somebody might be able to relate with.
So, with me being an entrepreneur, it was extremely hard because we all know who have been through this part of the life and journey of entrepreneur or self development. You go through a grace period called no man's land, and that is where you are getting pulled in one direction and you have your old set group of friends on this side, but you're trying to go over here and they're not willing to go with you. So it's either you stay and hang around the same group of people that you have, for X amount of years that are doing the same old things and they aren't on the same path as you. Or you want to go hang out with this next group of people, but you don't know who those people are yet. So you have to go through this transitionary period called no man's land in order to actually get to that next group of people that are aligned with where you're trying to go with your life. And during that time period, I almost went back and continued to hang out with the same people I used to spend my time with over and over and over again because I was so lonely. I thought that it wasn't worth it. And I thought this tribe of people was never going to come. I was never going to be able to build new friends, new relationships because I'd had these ones for so long. But that was just the false beliefs I was telling myself because ultimately, when you go on that path, you will end up finding people that are aligned with your values. God works in mysterious ways.
Yep.
For all my believers out there, He will provide. But sometimes you do have to go through a period of time where it is a little bit lonely. But that's ultimately a great time where you can dive deeper into your faith. You can dive deeper into your physical health. You can dive deeper into what you truly need to get to that next level. And for myself, during those time periods, before I was blessed by a mentor of Brad Modridge telling me about how I needed to spend more time with a group of my peer, even though I did have that deep burning desire, I didn't know how to do that. So he put me in a group with his son Brian and Parker Judd, who are my two best friends, and I have really been able to have reassurance that it will come from that because now, over almost 3 years later, I have been able to build and develop a driven group of young men on the same path, trying to achieve similar things with same values. But along that way, there was many other things that I did try. I got involved with other entrepreneurship groups. I got involved with different communities like the First Form community that helped me build relationships. I got involved with Toastmasters. That was a close in-person one. And if you don't know what Toastmasters is, it's to help you get better with communicating and public speaking.
Yeah.
And that was a great thing that I was able to go do. And everyone goes there for a reason. Like you have something in common. So just being able to deepen and develop those relationships has ultimately allowed me to prosper in so many areas. But ultimately, what you should be doing is figuring out where you want to go and then what do those types of people do and where do those types of people hang out.
Yeah.
Whether that's your gym, whether that's community events, whether that is like a community that you were interested in, whether that's a new sport, a new hobby, something like that. Just trying to find new places where you can meet more people because ultimately, like, even if you don't end up meeting people that's like you're super close with, guess what you get to practice with? Communication skills.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple that way. But those are the biggest components that helped me through my no man's period.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I know there's a lot of people out there that think that might be really, really tough right now for them to be able to do that. But one thing you can always do is lean more into God in your faith in many other areas that are going to bring you fulfillment and also help you along that path. And that's another thing that's great with me really being devoted to being a good Christian man and upholding the Christian values. It has opened up many, many doors because it doesn't matter if someone's fit or healthy or an entrepreneur. If I can connect with a fellow believer that truly accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, I can relate and connect with them on that. And the community is biblical. Like we are desired to have communities that aren't necessarily just behind a screen, like my Kaizen Brotherhood. Yes, we are behind a screen 50 out of 52 weeks of the year. And 2 weeks of the year or 2 weekends of the year, we are in person. but that is because we have such similar interests and we're all spread out throughout the country. But there's little pockets of communities everywhere that you can align with. It's just getting out of your comfort zone and be willing to take that initiative to actually go out and try to develop relationships. Like God isn't going to put people right in your room at your house.
No.
Like you have to get out of your house, which might be uncomfortable, as it should be, because growth is uncomfortable, but leaving your house to have a conversation or trying to seek out more to get rid of that loneliness aspect that you are currently struggling with is a key component. Like you can't overcome that loneliness without doing that.
Yeah, I mean, got to be uncomfortable a little bit, but the best things always came out of being uncomfortable. So, like Oliver said, nobody's going to walk into your room and say, "Hey, want to go to the state fair with me?" Nope. Not happening.
With that being said, what are some times in your life, Brisbane, that you felt that type of loneliness, and what did you do to be able to overcome that and be able to do what you do now?
So the first thing that's on my mind that I did a lot of research on when I was feeling this way, and I'll come back to my moment, is I don't know if it's a theory or a phenomenon or what they would call it, but it's the aspect of a third space. So a third space or a third place, basically. So everyone has a third place. We have home and work, obviously. So that's 2. But where's your third? Is that the gym? Is that church? Is that a pottery making class? Where do you spend the majority of your time when it's not home and work? Is that the bar? That might have hit home. That might have hit home.
Yikes.
Because at one point for me, it was the bar. Like that's what my friends did.
Guilty here too.
Yeah. So think about that in a kind of a bird's eye view. Where is your third place or space? And what does that say about you? Because Oliver's third place, I would say, is the gym.
What?
What? That's crazy. Oliver at the gym for 2 hours every day. It includes a cold plunge and a sauna, so that takes up a lot of time too. But that says a lot about who Oliver is, right? If Oliver spent 2 hours at the bar every day, that would say a lot about Oliver too. So just think about that. Because my lonely time, I did my undergrad and graduate school at Grand Valley State University in Michigan. And I graduated in April of 2020 for my undergrad. So obviously kind of a rough time. I didn't do my master's degree until about a year and a half later. And so a lot of my early 20s was always spent around people doing things that were similar because we're all in class, right? So they're 3-hour-long classes. I'd find my friends. Undergrad's a little different because we have living spaces together. You're living with roommates. Your friends were just kind of built in. And I had some choice in the matter, but depending on, I had work friends. I lived with 2 brothers and another gal during a few years in college. I lived with a nurse and her friend. Like I had lots of different people just kind of inserted into my life because of my living college spaces. But coming out of all of that, when I'm all done with school, now I'm 25, 26, and I go, oh, where'd my built-in friendships go? Like I used to have all of these people around me, and now I'm an adult, and now I might be living with one other person who's at work and has a job and has other things going on too. I don't have those built-in people anymore, and that was really hard. And so the built-in people that I made were just the person I was dating at the time and his friend group. And of course, that led to my third space being the bars or bonfires or whatever, just beer, 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 and more beer. And that's not helpful. And so that really put it in perspective for me of how lonely it was. Even though there were people around me, that loneliness was hard to overcome because it was confusing. It was confusing because I said, well, I'm doing a lot of things, but it was confusing because none of those people or places matched who I was, who I wanted to be. And so going into that, I think that was kind of a really transformative period for me, trying to understand who people actually were and what they meant to me or what value did they bring to me and vice versa. So I started kind of a mass exodus of friendships at this time. I had ended a relationship. I started to kind of scooch friends away, kind of, break up text with my friends and say, like, hey, I just think I need a break of this. And, like, for example, one person even specifically said, I thought we were close. Like, she lived a few minutes away from my apartment. I would go over there all the time. She was a mom. I would help her with her kids. I'd clean her house. Like, I was just giving and giving and giving because that's who I am. And when I kind of broke up text with her, I said it really nicely. Her response was, well, who's going to let my dog outside? So I think I'd rather be lonely in the sense of not having a ton of people than having these really shitty people around that don't really care about who I am and what I want to do with my life as much as I cared about them. So mine was a little different. Of course, it's lonely, what Oliver talked about too, because I've experienced that as well, kind of coming after this moment. But it was so confusing being in that space of having people but feeling lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I want to let them know it's okay. And you might have to take a little inventory and do a few breakup texts with your friends that aren't serving you or that don't live a life that you want to live. If they're not doing anything with their life and all you can think about is just like, oof, they could do better, they could do better, they could do better, why the heck are you hanging out with them?
Yeah, I mean that's a very, very, very good point. In life, you have two types of real people. Is you have givers like Brisman and myself. I like to think that we are because that's our intentions and we always try to, which is why our life looks the way it does. And then you have takers on the other side. And those takers are people that just want to continuously extract what you have, take from you, take your time, take your energy, all these other things. They almost feel like they're just sucking the life out of you.
Yeah.
They may seem really nice and cool at first, but over time, people are creatures of habit. And over time, they just continuously, oh, they're like, oh, can I do this? Or will you do this with me? Will you help me with this? Will you help me with this? Will you help me with this? And then, as time goes by, like some people, allow these types of people to stay in their lives for years. You realize, like, hey, when has that person ever showed up for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, it's a hard reality. It sucks. It is. But that's what leads to you being lonely. Even though you have people, you still feel lonely because those aren't the fruitful relationships that we desire as humans, which goes back to what I was talking about originally with the effort it takes to deepen and develop a relationship. It takes consistent effort for you to develop that relationship. And over time, like it depends. Well, going back, like if you don't have the reassurance in yourself and you are truly unhappy with yourself, the chances of you having amazing people that are going to give the type of love that you need in your life are slim to none because you aren't willing to give that love to yourself.
Yeah.
And that was a big component I realized was it wasn't the fact that I was lonely because of myself. I was lonely because I had a desire to give back and do really cool things with really cool people, which is why we ended up, me and the founders of Kai's ended up starting it. So we wanted a chance to give back to that younger generation, help them through those time periods, because I know how many times I wanted to quit and not keep going on that path because I felt lonely. Even though I was really happy with the progress I was making within myself, I still had this underlying desire for more. But in all reality, it's only because I was actually putting in the work in myself. And if you're someone that is surrounded by a bunch of takers and you quote unquote think you're just a giver, like chances are that's probably not it. But it could be if you don't have the right boundaries set up. That's a whole nother topic we can talk about later in another episode if what you guys want. But ultimately, if you aren't consistently doing that piece and rechecking yourself on am I giving enough to attract other givers into my life? Like I was talking about before, the law of reciprocity. you get what you give. If you were a taker for the longest time and then you somehow got surrounded by a bunch of other takers, you just happen to be not quite as much as a taker as them, that needs to be your change. You have to do something about that because you only attract those types of people into your life when you do those similar things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like action items, that was a great one, right? Check yourself.
Mhm.
Check yourself. Are you giving? And I'm not saying like you're giving money to everybody you meet. No. It can simply be a hug. It could be a listening ear. It could be you're over at a friend's house and they go to the bathroom, do their dishes. Like, you have a few minutes. Instead of pulling out your phone, just do something nice that you'd be like, that would be awesome if somebody just like did that for me without asking, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Bring something. If somebody invites you somewhere, don't show up empty handed. You could make that a standard, right? And just give something. And it's not necessarily what it is, it's the thought that you took time out of your day to personally bring them something.
100%. That goes hand in hand with knowing your friends. And this is a huge critical point right here, is knowing your friends. When you deepen and develop your relationship to a point where it is fruitful, it comes from actually knowing, like your partner, if you have a partner in life, like I have with me in Brisbane, knowing your friends and family's love languages.
Yeah.
How do they receive love? Because at the end of the day, relationships have a underlying desire for love, compassion, companionship, whether that be with a significant other or a friend. We all have that rooted in us. And the way you receive love is different from other people. Like the way I receive love, my love languages are not Brisbane's love languages. So I can't give her the love that I desire in the forms that I need. I have to give her the form of love in the way that she needs it, because that is how she receives love. We are not the same in that way. I am an acts of service guy.
Yeah.
Her is a physical touch.
Yeah.
Like, I love the physical touch side of things, but the acts of service, because I have so much on my plate all the time, like for someone to do something and go out of their way to do something to make my workload, to ease the yoke, to carry the load, that is like, that shows true love to me, because they're willing to take the time out of their day to help take something off my plate so I can make sure that the things that are extremely important to me are getting done, to make sure that our family is going to where we're at. Like, my friends know mine. I know my friends. I know my significant others, and I try my best. I'm not perfect by any means, guys. You guys have heard me say that, and I will never be perfect. There's only one man ever on this earth, and that was Jesus Christ, to be perfect. Yeah. We are all imperfect human beings, created in God's image, but we are all imperfect because of sin. And we all struggle with this. Like I said before, everyone wants to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
But the best way you can do it and show love to the people that you want to deepen and develop that relationship with is figure out how they need love, how they are going to receive it. What do you need to do to show that person the type of love that they need?
And it could even be like a social experiment. If that person doesn't know, or that feels like a weird question to ask them, maybe your relationship's not there yet. It depends. If it's a coworker and you go, hey, what's your love language? They might take that a little weird. And that's okay. But you could try them out, right? So the 5 Love Languages book, read it if you've never read it, for sure. Know what yours is. But you could then, go out of your way, get your coworker a cup of coffee, see what happens. You could then pat them on the back if they do a good job, see what happens. You could say, hey, you want to go to lunch with me today? Quality time, right? You could see how they responded to each thing, and kind of measure the reaction to it, and to see what their love language is, or what they felt most loved by. Because then they'll show you with subconscious movements or like body language or other things, like how appreciated they felt. They will. Because when Oliver just takes the time to hold my hand in the street and, give me a hug, all the physical touch things, or just like sit close to me on the couch, that's really, really nice. And it makes me more likely to do things for him when he's busy and he, whatever it is, I want to make sure that I show up for him just the same way he did for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to go into a little bit of scripture. I have some of my favorite verses that when we have the devil inside of us kind of pushing us towards that loneliness, because the way my business is set up, we have 2 shifts going, and sometimes on a couple days, I'm working solo for 6 to 8 hours for myself. Yeah. And I'm a social man. I love to talk. I love people. Like, that is who I am to my core. So when I have to go through prolonged periods of time where I am alone, the devil sees that as an opportunity to get into my mind, intrusive thoughts, negative doubt, like just try to beat me down to the point where I get in the not most optimal headspace to perform and continue to put God first. And if you haven't heard Psalm 23 verse 4, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod, your staff, they comfort me. One thing that everyone needs to remember is the fact that God is always there. Whether you are a believer or not, God is always there no matter what. You can have an open conversation with him at any time. A lot of people think that, your relationship with God has to be, structured prayer, going to church, doing all these things. But my relationship with God is mine and yours is yours. It's different for everyone. But my relationship with God is literally an open conversation with all day long. I talk to God all day long, and especially in times where I have that little feeling of loneliness where I'm not around people and having conversation or doing something, like in my mind is not solely focused on one thing, because the only time I truly ever feel lonely is when I'm quote unquote bored or I'm not doing something that involves my mind or my physical body. Like, that is the only time I ever really have those intrusive thoughts of, I feel lonely. And that is where I combat it with my conversations with God. Like, and that is what has helped me deepen, develop my relationship with him. That is what's helped me continue to push through those tough times. That's what's helped me take the log out of my own eye, so I'm not taking it out on other people, which is a common thing. Like, if you were struggling internally with something, you're going to project it out into other people. In the place I'm in a leadership role, in my business, in my Kaizen brotherhood, in my family, that's not fair to anyone around me to have that negative belief in my head and that loneliness feeling and those insecurities that the devil tries to portray and get instilled into you. It's not fair to Brisbane. It's not fair to my business partner, Nestor. It's not fair to my business partner, Eric. It's not fair to my employee, Max. It's not fair to those people who I love. I absolutely love those people in my life. It's not fair to any single one of them if I'm feeling those types of emotions and I go to try to solve a problem in business with my business partner. Or if I get home and I'm having those intrusive thoughts, if I take that out on Brisbane, like, that is not fair to anyone.
Yeah.
So the way that I combat it is the conversation with God, because he reassures me that I am not alone ever. There's not a single time where I am actually alone. Yes, I may be alone in the flesh, but not in the Holy Spirit and with my Creator.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's okay to still feel it. Like, it's okay to still, like, you could be around your significant other and say, like, I feel lonely right now. And that could be, and that's not something that we take offense to. If Oliver were to say that in front of me, I'd be like, okay, then that sounds like we need some connection.
Yeah.
Right? That sounds like maybe we have been reading too much or on our phones too much or just busy, right? So saying those words shouldn't feel like a jab at somebody, but it should just, if a person actually loves you, they're going to take that and say, okay, what do we need to do to fix it?
100%. Well, before we wrap it up, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
Just note, loneliness is a complicated thing and it's very unique to each person. If you ever have like more questions or specific questions, I mean, we try to touch on a few different times in our life, but loneliness ebbs and flows. We are always here for you guys. We do this as a way to give of ourselves. It's also, tying it back in, a way for us to connect. Look at that. No loneliness here. Because we don't often make the time to sit down for an hour and see what's on each other's minds over a topic, right? I always learn something about Oliver when we do something like this, like a podcast. I hope you also learn something about me.
The same, okay, for sure.
Cool. I don't want to assume anything. But yeah, we're here for you guys, and we want this to be a comfortable, casual conversation of just things that maybe people aren't talking about, or they really they talk about it kind of, but they don't really talk about like the nitty gritty of it, the day to day. And that's why we want to just be different. We want to sit here and go like, ooh, it's not so pretty all the time. Or yeah, we're not going to gloss over it. We are not afraid to dig deeper. So please let us know if you need anything.
100%. And we appreciate every single one of you guys. And we know how hard it can be if you go through these chapters of loneliness. And with where my heart is, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. Brisbane's been there. You are not alone. If you need help, if you need someone to talk to, reach out, whether it's us, whether it's a family member, whether it is a friend. People are more inclined to listen when you actually express and communicate that you need. People can't read minds, as Brisbane and I, we talk about all the time. She can't read my mind, and I can't read hers.
Yeah.
So the only way we truly ever know what's going on inside of each other's heads is by talking it out. Like, that is simply the only way to communicate. Hey, I am going through this. I'm thinking about this. Like, no one can read your thoughts. And when you get stuck in your head, that is where it becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
So another just quick actionable item that you can do is when you're struggling with something, project it out, talk it out, write it out, journal it, do something to get it out of your head. Because if you have this constant thought day after day after day after day, like, that shit's going to drive you crazy. And right now, with the state of this world and how common it is for people to take their own lives, I can promise you it is not worth it. It is not worth it. Doesn't matter what you're currently going through. It does not matter where you're currently at. There is brighter future for you ahead.
Yeah.
And if you make an irrational decision based off of a problem that is just in this moment, or for a little season of your life, if you make an irrational decision that is a decision you can't take back, you will regret it. And I will promise you that. So please do what is required. It may be uncomfortable to seek advice, whether it is a significant other, whether it's a friend, whether it's someone in your business, or whether you have to seek out a therapist. I used to be opposed to seeing a therapist, but over the course of time, Brisbane got me to give it a shot. She didn't push me to give it a shot. She just kept prompting like, hey, you don't know if you don't know. That's the same thing with, like, if you don't try, you never know. And it's helped me significantly. I only see my therapist maybe once every 6 months, but it's just a good check-in to go over some things and problems that I'm struggling with, to have an outside person's perspective compared to all the people that are already in my circle of influence.
Yeah.
Like, they will check me because I don't have yes people around me by any means, but at the same time, they aren't licensed in that area. So if you feel the necessity to actually see a therapist, do your due diligence, shop around, find someone you can connect with, find someone that's going to actually help serve you, and it'll make it that much easier. And nothing is wrong with seeing a therapist.
No.
So with that being said, always remember, there's a fresh hope for better
you.